NativRootsRadio.com.
Spring and summer is the right time to install your fireplace. Find your perfect fireplace and have it installed and ready before the cold weather hits again. If you already have a wood fireplace, consider a fireplace insert or check out the entire selection at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces on East Franklin and Riverside in Minneapolis. It will transform your inefficient fireplace into a reliable, environmentally smart heating system.
This is Peter Solak, owner of Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Have you ever watched your dog or cat curl up in front of a fire? It's primordial, the way it touches both the animal and the human. We know that fire reaches deep into the heart and soul. Let us show you how. We have over 35 working units on display here in Minneapolis. We are located at the east end of Riverside Avenue at 2901 East Franklin. From I-94, take the Riverside Avenue exit. Find us also online at woodlandstoves.com. Let us help you make a fireplace part of your life.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Step into the vibrant world of Alternative by Frank Buffalo Hyde at All My Relations Arts. Explore Hyde's sardonic pop culture saturated works on commodification of Indigenous culture and Native American identity. Don't miss Hyde's Artist Talk on May 31st. Hear from the artist himself, where he says, "What you see is what you get when it comes to me and my art. I pull no punches." The Talk with artist Frank Buffalo Hyde is Friday, May 31st from 5 to 7 p.m. at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies tonight with a low around 53, Thursday a chance for thunderstorms with a high near 77, and Friday a chance for rain with a high around 71. Discover Eat Local Minnesota, your guide to locally owned Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors. Enjoy high-quality food, unique dining experiences, local foods, and vegetarian options. Every dollar you spend stays local. Check out favorites like Cafe Latte, Mavericks, Real Roast Beef, Nightingale, and Vinaigrette. Find a full list at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega, and this portion of the show is supported by Little Moments Count, which is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. For more information, you can visit littlemomentscount.org.
Hey, you know, Native Roots Radio is excited to be partnering with Little Moments Count to host conversations, focused on early childhood development. We bring guests on once a month to talk about how they view the role of early childhood development in creating bright futures and strong communities. Today we have Dr. Debbie Reese, founder of American Indian and Children's Literature, on today. I'm really excited to have Dr. Debbie Reese on. Welcome.
Thanks, Robert, for having me on the show. I'm glad to be here.
Right on. Hey, I was wondering if you could introduce yourself in a good way of like your credentials and your bio a little bit.
All right. I was born at an Indian hospital near our reservation, which is Nambe Owinge, in our language, Nambe Owinge, rather than Nambe Pueblo. And I grew up wanting to be a teacher. Anyway, I do that very much in my work now as an adult, helping people understand who we are as Native people. I have a degree in education and a PhD in early childhood education. And the emphasis of all of my work has been on books, children's books, and storytelling. I have
Wow.
the blog American Indians and Children's Literature, that I started because the other thing that happens when you become an academic is you're supposed to publish in journals and books that real people that I know that are teachers and librarians can't afford. So I started a blog to give everyone access to the work I was doing.
Wow, that's exciting. Reading is fundamental, and I remember years ago they had that. I really enjoyed reading, and it's really good. And lately, for me, there's been a lot of really great Native American books coming out. Could you share your journey in studying depictions of Native peoples and children's books, and what inspired you to focus in this area?
Well, I was doing family and math literacy at home on our reservation, and I had already been a school teacher for some years, and decided I wanted to go to graduate school, and I chose the University of Illinois. I was warned ahead of time that there was a mascot there, but I thought, nah, that's just not a big deal. And I got to Illinois and found out how big a deal it actually was. People there were incredibly ignorant, and I thought, what? What do they get? Where are they getting all of this um, information, they said, about who we are? And because I'm so invested in storytelling and children's books, I shifted my focus away from family literacy to just looking at the content of children's books, those ones that are very popular, that are award-winning books, the kind that you can buy at Kmart or Target. And I saw how many of those very popular books had stereotypical images of Native people, and it sort of fit with what I was seeing in the mascots, that they're stereotypical. And so children across the country have been fed misrepresentations from their early years that help them embrace stereotypical mascots when they become older. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I began this work, was just the lived experiences I was having in Illinois.
Wow, that's an amazing thing, and that was 30 years ago when
Yep.
people really we had Dancing with Kevin Costner coming out with the movies, but we also had our own smoke signals and a lot of books and a lot of things happening then. How did your early experiences like helping at a Head Start program and teaching your siblings shape your understanding in early childhood education and its importance?
Well, I think that part of what I was doing as a child, as a young person, spending time in educational spaces there at the Pueblo, I was just immersed in who we are and why that mattered, community and how that works towards self-esteem and understanding who you are. And then I know that I was seeing stereotypical images as a child, but they seemed to like run off my back. They didn't impact me because I think I was growing up in a community that affirmed who I was and who we are. That didn't even look like anything I understood when I was a kid. So it was just kind of like cartoons of some sort. They didn't matter to me. But moving away from home, I learned just how much those things matter, especially when I went to Illinois. I
Mm.
understood that a lot of what Native kids growing up on reservations, immersed in their community and traditions, are getting from their community, and what they're not getting from the books that the teachers give to them or that are in the libraries.
Do you think a lot of that has to do with maybe our young ones not interested in school at times because of the false narrative?
Yes, definitely. It's no fun to be a Native kid who knows who you are, trying to speak to a teacher who is rejecting your words. That does happen to Native kids who are growing up in areas of the country where there is not a Native population that can counter by your very presence stereotypical imagery. And so that I think that we have many places in the country where there are Native people have been completely removed from the area. As Illinois, there were no reservations in Illinois. I think there's something changing there now with Potawatomi, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but anyway, yeah, we need to have better materials for kids, and they do disengage. And there are studies from various research organizations that document that talk to kids. And it kind of the study I'm thinking of was one about civil rights, and it includes a component about Native kids and how they disengage every year in school. They just start to disengage more and more. And some of the discussion about that had to do with lack of solid, accurate content that represent who they are. If you're asked to regurgitate nonsense, you just step back. And our kids step back year after year after year.
Yeah, well, that's really important, your work, because I know, being an educator myself, I taught for 30 years in the high school, that, the librarians and people that want to have accurate representation really need to be educated a lot of times too. And with your blog and things like that, what specific criterias or resources should we use to have this accurate representation in all schools?
Well, I certainly invite people to come to my blog. I have been doing that blog for, I don't know, 18 years now, I think. And so it consists of critical analysis of popular books that have stereotypical content in them, but it also includes books that I think should be in every classroom because they function as mirrors for kids, Native kids in particular, who are looking for stories that in some way reflect who they are. My site is one. Also, the American Indian Library Association has an annual book award, a biannual book award, and that's also another good place for information.
Wow, I just want to say we are here with Dr. Debbie Reese, founder of American Indians in Children Literature, and we'll be right back after a short break. You're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are Calusa Nation.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
My name is Lola Silvestri, and I'm going to be 95 this year. I spend a lot of time in my backyard. I feed the birds and the bees. I love my flowers. The color in my garden keeps the pink in my cheeks. I was very independent, thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels. I loved them. They're my savior. And I look forward to volunteers because they've all become my friends.
It's Meals on Wheels.
America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1, U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Little Moments Count. Nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days, and small moments of interaction like talking, playing, reading, and singing help create the pathways that build a child's brain during this early stage of life. For more information, you can visit littlemomentscount.org.
Wow, yeah, that's a good point too. Singing, I love that. We're here with Dr. Debbie Reese, founder of American Indians and Children's Literature, and we're talking a little bit about educating our libraries and our librarians and people that send out kind of those kind of messages and via books and things like that. And I know Dr. Debbie Reese, we over the years we've had literature come out from people that claim that they're Native and aren't even Native.
Yes, that's a real problem, and we are addressing that. I have addressed that several times in the last year, especially on my blog, where we have people who find each other and form a tribe, and then they write books as though they are actually Native people. And we have yeah, it's a very contentious but important topic to take up.
Yeah, it really is, because you know it's very confusing too at times. As a former educator, what advice do you have for educators who encounter resistance when they try to introduce culturally accurate Native literature into their curriculum?
Well, as when I'm doing professional development with teachers and librarians, I can tell when they sign up for these sessions that I do, they care, but they're also afraid because they are the only person that's doing that. And so my recommendation is that you find somebody to form a cohort, that a team orientation, a community orientation, which is a lot like what we do in our Native communities. We form teams that can work on a problem of one kind or another. And I think that's what educators need to do, is find like-minded teachers and librarians and parents, people in the community who you can talk with and talk through these things, because you have to read a book and understand what's in there and why it's a problem. And saying those words with another person helps you to defend what you're doing as an educator when you're using a book or choosing not to use a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know also too, there's that fine line for our white allies to join us and not speak for us too. So there's a balancing act in education all the time, especially with our allies that really want to do well for our kids.
There is, and it's really important that when they are doing that work, that they be aware of the Native voices that they may inadvertently silence by speaking up when they should be listening.
Yeah, wow, really good point. Why do you believe it's essential for Native voices to lead the creation of literature about Native cultures rather than non-Native writers? We see a lot of that.
We do, and I grew up at home being taught by the elders. There are things that we keep private, things we don't talk about. I remember very clearly elders saying, "Don't go tell your teachers what we do here."
Mm-hmm.
Because of the history of exploitation and history of harmful legislation and policies that essentially drove a lot of our religious ways underground. They became secret. So we do keep things private, and Native writers who grew up with their communities know that. They don't spill their guts in the way someone who did not grow up with that teaching can do. In a certain sense, we can think about something like a naming ceremony. We don't give all those details. Native people who are writing books don't give all those details because too many non-Native people want to come up with an Indian name. So they'll create a ceremony based on what they find in something written by a Native person.
Yeah, definitely.
In a nutshell, we know what to hold back. We know what to keep private.
I know, and I don't know if you remember this is kind of off topic, but it was like 20 years ago. Somebody was doing sweats and killing people, and it was a unbelievable that this shaman there was speaking and doing these things that were closely that we do in our culture. So you're absolutely right about that, and especially with literature. Uh, yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to go definitely check on your blog. That's really some really good information that we need to talk about and spread here on Native Roots Radio. How do your professional development sessions address the deep-seated stereotypes? And I think you talked a little bit about that, but the misinformation that's perpetrated in certain children's books that are out there and been out there for years.
Well, part of what I'm trying to do in my professional development is based on what I hear from teachers and writers. Teachers will say things like, "Oh, I brought Sharice's Big Voice." That's the by Ho Chunk Congressperson Sharice Davids,
Hmm.
and she has a picture book. But so we have books by Native people being written, and when teachers try to bring them into the classroom, the kids are like, "Is that really an Indian book?" They don't believe that it's a story about Native people because it doesn't have feathers
Huh.
and ceremony in it. And so when I think about that, I think, okay, so what do we have to get rid of? What do we have to see pushed aside so that children know better when they are picking up books by Native writers? So we need to look carefully at Little House on the Prairie.
Mm.
And in my professional development workshops, I look very carefully at these classic and award-winning books. I bring sets of them and I hand them out and I say, okay, I want you to read the second paragraph on page 9.
Hmm.
And teachers and librarians then go through an oral study with me in the session, and they are usually quite stunned and shaken by the things that are in books like Little House on the Prairie, because that one has the only good Indian is a dead Indian
Right.
3 different times, right? So we have to come to a space of knowing that those classics are deeply biased and deeply hurtful and inaccurate. They just have mistakes in them.
Hmm.
And so being able to see that we are teachers, we are educators, and when we use a book that has stereotypes and bad history, we are miseducating the children in our classrooms. And that's not why we chose to become educators. So helping them see that is really important.
Wow, that's amazing too. And sometimes because of the TV series was so popular, I forget that was Laura Ingalls book series many years ago that was really revered by a lot of schools and teachers over the years.
It still is. It is still used in schools across the country.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Wow, you have your hands full with just that book here. That's again the inaccuracy of our people, and when you hear terms like that, you think of the president that really disliked us too when he was moving westward, and yeah, wow. What are some of the key takeaways for educators and librarians? And I know. Like we have State Senator Mary Kunish, who is a former librarian in schools, and there was a book recently written about the Ho-Chunks removal in Minnesota that was written by an author from the University of Minnesota library part, and did a lot of research on that. It's so important to have librarians on the same page.
It is. It is crucial that librarians who are information providers, that's what they do, be able to read books that help them come to a better place of knowing regarding who we are. Being able to say, yeah, I thought that was a good book, and man, it is not a good book. And being able to set it aside and remove it from their collection, from their library collections. We're in a very dicey time because people say, censorship.
Right.
They default to that, and it's really not a question of censorship. It's a question of accuracy of materials that we're putting on the shelves for children. we as a society have changed in many ways over time. Like there was a time when we had little black Sambo in libraries everywhere. That's not the case anymore. We understand that's stereotypical. That the Richard Scarry books were full of stereotypes of Native people, and those have been changed, and librarians are taking the old ones out and putting the new ones in. We can grow in those ways if we know what's out there.
Wow. Doctor, I would really like you to bring up your blog and how people can read that again. We are here with Dr. Debbie Reese, founder of American Indians in Children's Literature. Haley, I would love to have the doctor on again, and once I go over her blog again, because this is very interesting information that everybody needs to know.
Yeah, definitely give out your blog information. I was looking at it before the show, and there's just full of really great information and different pieces of literature. And I think it's so important. I know we have a minute left here. Why don't we give out that information quickly?
Okay, it's called American Indians in Children's Literature. That's the name of the blog, and if you put that in your search engine, whichever search program you use, you'll find it. And come over there and read what I've written over the last 15 years and submit comments, because I do respond, especially to teachers and librarians who are looking for help.
Wow. Dr. Debbie Reese, I wanted to say a big thank you, a big peeny gigi, and again, we'd love to have you on the show again. And this is a deep dive for us here, and our allies are really interested, along with our Native listeners, on this, especially with the history.
Thank you. I'd be glad to come back.
Excellent. Thank you. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be back after this short break.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
This message is brought to you by Strong Hearts Native Helpline. If you are experiencing domestic or sexual violence, Strong Hearts advocates provide culturally appropriate support and advocacy for Native Americans and Alaska Natives. Free, confidential, anonymous, 24/7. Strong Hearts advocates are Native American and take a Native-centered approach to every contact. Call or text 1-844-762-8483. That's 1-844-7NATIVE, or chat online at strongheartshelpline.org.
Step into the vibrant world of Alternative by Frank Buffalo Hyde at All My Relations Arts. Explore Hyde's sardonic pop culture saturated works on commodification of Indigenous culture and Native American identity. Don't miss Hyde's Artist Talk on May 31st. Hear from the artist himself, where he says, "What you see is what you get when it comes to me and my art. I pull no punches." The talk with artist Frank Buffalo Hyde is Friday, May 31st from 5 to 7 p.m. at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
My name's Michaela. When I got back from Iraq, I became pregnant and ended up homeless. Counselors helped us apply for VA supportive housing.
VA offers programs to help eligible veterans stay healthy, find a job, and secure or maintain safe, stable housing.
My life works now. I got help from VA, and now I'm on a mission to share these resources.
If you or a veteran you know is homeless or at immediate risk of becoming homeless, call 877-424-3838.
Hi, I'm Chuck Manette, owner of Native Concrete and Masonry.
With concrete and masonry adding substantial value to your home, it's always a great idea to repair your sidewalks or just add a beautiful new patio. Cracks or heaving in your sidewalks due to tree roots can be dangerous. Native Concrete and Masonry has helped clients across the metro to make their outdoor space safer and helped increase the value to their homes. For patios, sidewalks, driveways, or garage slabs, go to nativeconcretemasonry.com.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies tonight with a low around 53. Thursday, a chance for thunderstorms with a high near 77. And Friday, a chance for rain with a high around 71. Discover Eat Local Minnesota, your guide to locally owned Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors. Enjoy high-quality food, unique dining experiences, local foods, and vegetarian options. Every dollar you spend stays local. Check out favorites like Cafe Latte, Mavericks Real Roast Beef, Nightingale, and Vinaigrette. Find a full list at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count. For more information, you can visit littlemomentscount.org.
Hey, we are here with Debbie Reese, founder of American Indians in Child Literature, and we're really excited to talk about a lot of things here about older literature, getting correct information out there. Haley, this has been a really interesting show for me. I love to read books, and I can't wait to jump on Dr. Debbie Reese's blog. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think when I saw that Debbie was coming on today and she was our guest with Little Moments Count, I was so excited because, we've had Mary Kunish on the show who's talked about we just passed that law in Minnesota. I don't know if you know Dr. Reese, but Native American or American Indian education is now required in all K through 12 schools, I believe, in the state. And this went into effect this previous school year. And I know that during Indigenous Peoples Month, or I think maybe it was Indigenous Peoples Day, a lot of teachers were not able to, and in fact, did not carry out any education in the classroom. And because of that, they said they couldn't find the right information or enough literature or correct, information on what to educate their students. So I think your blog post is a really great resource for a lot of our teachers out there.
Thank you. Yeah, there's, when I think about teachers who can't find materials, I wonder, where are they looking? Where are they not looking? What is their criteria? I wonder, too, if they think that what they need to give to kids on that day are what is widely marketed as folk tales and myths and legends. And the realities are that most of those books out there were not written by Native people, and they were misrepresentations of the teachings of those stories. But they are popular. That's what people want. That's what the consumer wants, is myths and legends and folktales. What Native writers want are books that look like them as they are growing up in the United States. So they're looking for books for their kids that look like they are today. So we are seeing a huge growth in picture books about Native people set in the present day. And I'd really like to see those being used in classrooms. A lot of those traditional things that get called folk tales, that's sacrilegious. A lot of those stories are actually sacred stories that white writers don't know are sacred stories because we have such a history of miseducating people about who we are. So there's so many good choices. I get very fired up about some writers and what they're doing.
Well, we were talking about State or Representative Sharice David's picture book, but I know there was also a Ho-Chunk young lady who was also a ballerina dancer who did a book, and also, thank you, Haley.
Rhea Thundercloud.
Thank you, Haley. And she's
also Pueblo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't have to claim that though. Oh, wow. No, but I mean, that's what you're saying is that she's dancing, but also how she can put it to combine both traditional and ballet as a 21st century person.
Right. Right. We see many of those kinds of books, like hers is very good. I was listening to the announcements before we came back on, and I heard Penny Flanagan's voice. There is a book about Peggy Flanagan.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. And the truths that are in there are so good. Like there's a page where she's talking about where the biographer has written about Peggy in school and being taught about Christopher Columbus. And Peggy knows, he didn't discover America. And so her as a child is thinking, but wait, that's not true. And I think that's a huge issue for so many of our kids, that disengagement that we go through when they come to a book that has wrong information and they know it's wrong, then what do? Most kids just sail right past that, and our Native kids are like stuck in that moment. And then they have to do something like take a spelling test. How are they going to fare on that spelling test when they're stuck on that moment, when their teacher has told them something that's not true? So I thought of that page in that book about Peggy Flanagan when you were when the announcer was talking. Well, it was her.
Yeah.
It was her voice there. And
Right.
and some other, if I could, I don't know how much time we have, but a couple writers who I would really like people to know about are Kim Rogers. Kim Rogers has a few picture books out. She's a new writer in the last 5 years. One of my favorite books that she did is called A Letter for Bob. It's a picture book about a car that a Native family has, and they've named it Bob. But it's time to get a new car, and so they're reminiscing about all the things and places they went to with Bob. Great book. And another one is Lori Goodluck. She's also a Native writer, and she has several books coming out. She did one called Forever Cousins, and in that book you learn about two little girls. They're cousins, they're friends, they hang out in the San Francisco Bay Area, but then one of them is moving back to the reservation, and the questions about, well, wait a minute, why are there Native people in the San Francisco Bay Area in the first place? And so she's got an author's note in her book where she says Native people were moved to these urban areas by a federal government act that enticed people to leave their homes so their land could become available.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the information you get from Native writers, they are writing author's notes that tell teachers, here's the information you need to best use this book in your classroom. So I really am very keen on Kim Rogers and Lori Goodluck, of two of many.
Over the years, we've had Tommy Orange on, and also who's a mystery writer here in Minnesota, Haley?
Oh, are you
Marcy.
talking Marcy Rendon?
Yes, we've
Yes.
had her on, and yeah, I mean, there's a great writer right there that has a twist of maybe back on the res and things that are happening there, and put it into a murder mystery.
Her books are excellent. I do know I have many of her books, and she has picture books too. She has a picture book coming out. When that book comes out, you should have her on the show, so that your readers can become familiar with her picture books. I knew her first as a writer of children's books, and then later as these mysteries that she's writing. And I'll tell you, every workshop that I do, I say, instead of Tony Hillerman, reach for Marcy Rendon.
Right.
Hillerman
Nice.
was an outsider who does not know what to share, what not to share. We don't know what he's making up in his books, but we can reach for Native writers who do better for us all.
Wow. That really interesting, Haley and Dr. Reese. Really interesting. We've really, and Tommy Orange, I don't know if he had a new book just come out recently, but I know it was funny. The first book he said that took him 10 years to write because he was working full time, and now he's able to be a writer. And the second book took a couple years, but still, it's exciting to have these young writers and writers writing Native things that are real and realistic, like you said, Dr. Reese.
It is. These are hopeful moments when we're seeing more Native writers who are writing for adults and Native writers who are writing for children getting published by the mainstream big publishers. Those big publishers have funds. They have money that can help them market the books. That so that when you go into a Barnes and Noble and you see all that swag, all those cool things, that's what you get when you get published by a major publisher. So we're seeing an uptick in that in the field. What's really necessary though is that people buy those books. They can't just be glad that they exist. They have to buy them, because publishers are not publishing books because they like us Native people. They're publishing because they want to make some money. Making money means we as Native people have to buy those books and talk about those books and tell others about those books. We have to go to the library and ask for that book, because then the library will buy it. We have to go to the bookstores and ask for it there, because then they will put it on the shelf. We can be activists in ways I think that we're not aware of, if we just be more vocal about the books that are written by our Native writers.
Well, we have like Moon Palace Bookstore, who's privately run, and then also we have the big bookstore. We were going to talk about Haley.
Birch Bark Bookstore in Minneapolis.
Yeah, so we try to make sure that people, you have to get things at Barnes and Nobles for sure, but really support our local book dealers too.
Yeah, and I've been to Birch Bark books many times, and gosh, Louise Erdrich's books are amazing, and people should be reading those too. She's got some for children. She wrote a series called Birch Bark House that is set in the same time period of Little House on the Prairie, and it is definitely something that people should reach for instead of Little House on the Prairie, because it is about those early contact periods and the ways that Native and non-Native people were encountering each other and coming to know each other and figuring out how they're going to go forward together. So definitely think that people should be more aware of her historical fiction for children.
Yeah, and she's prolific. She is writing, and it's great to have her in the community here in the Twin Cities, but all nationally too. She's renowned.
Yes, she is. And I do recommend her adult books, some of them in particular, like The Roundhouse and The Sentence, because I think that in order for teachers and librarians to better select and deselect, which means removing books from your library, you have to know what that voice is like. And so reading her books, the ones that I think will work better for teachers and librarians, I recommend those because that helps them embrace and just become more knowledgeable of Native voice and what Native writers are writing.
Wow, this has been a really good show. Let's talk about your blog one more time, and anything else that you'd like to finish with. Really appreciate you doing overtime with us on 3 segments.
Okay, my blog is American Indians in Children's Literature, and I think my next post on there is going to be about Super Indian. If you and your readers don't know about Aragon Starr and her series of books called Super Indian, it is a graphic novel, and it's about a person who has commodity cheese and people who are Native who have powers because of some of this. I don't want to say a whole lot, but I love it. And what she's doing with her graphic novels, the volume 3 just came out. So there's volume 1, volume 2, Super Indian. Can't say enough about it.
Wow, Big Peeny Gigi, thank you so much for coming on, and we want to reach out again. This has been really fascinating and really educational for me and our listeners.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be back another day. Thank you.
Right on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and up next we got Wendy Pilot with our Sacred Animal section. We'll be right back after this short break.
Alusa Nation.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
As nature awakens this spring, let's awaken to the call of protection. Native brothers and sisters, Let's bloom together by getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Let's nurture our heritage and safeguard our futures, one vaccination at a time. So be a vaccinative this spring by protecting yourself and others in our Native community. Whether you're due for an updated vaccine or just getting started, all COVID vaccines offer vital protection against severe illness. For our elders over 65, the latest vaccine is recommended by the CDC to maintain protection. So spring forward with strength, Native communities. Embrace the renewal of the season and safeguard our traditions by getting vaccinated against COVID-19. For more information, including details about clinics offering free vaccines, visit vaccines.gov. That's vaccines.gov. This message is brought to you in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health.
This message is brought to you by Strong Hearts Native Helpline. Did you know that there is a free culturally appropriate helpline for Native Americans and Alaska Natives affected by domestic or sexual violence? If you're hurting in your relationship and want to talk, advocates are available 24/7. Call or text 1-844-762-8483. That's 1-844-7-NATIVE, or chat online at strongheartshelpline.org. Safe, anonymous, confidential. Strong Hearts Native Helpline.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, I want to introduce my awesome and beautiful wife, and she's been overworked here on Native Roots Radio on our little travel here in New York, but we really appreciate Wendy. Wendy, come on and introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Hi, my name is Hana Jihihani, and that means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hana Jingo, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level. I want to give a shout out to Curtis, my Dega Curtis. He's not feeling well, so warrior prayers out for Curtis. He was in bed all day today. Yeah, I saw that as a post today. So hopefully he's feeling better. You know, I've been feeling a little bit under the weather too. I don't know whether it's allergies or cold or whatever. Maybe it's just from traveling. I don't know. But today, Howling for Wolves did post an information, yes, on social media saying that hunters pushing misinformation continue to cause unnecessary wolf deaths. Even without a wolf hunt, wolf mortality rates are alarmingly high. A 16-year study by the state's DNR shows an annual mortality rate of 43%, with a significant increase in illegal killings after the last legal hunts in 2012. This is far above the sustainable 29% mortality rate proposed by experts. Minnesota wolves are struggling due to poaching, vehicle collisions, and conflict. Further population reductions through public hunts are not only unnecessary, but also harmful, increasing illegal killings and threatening long-term viability through inbreeding and unstable packs. It's time to focus on science and non-lethal methods to ensure the survival and recovery of our wolf population. So let's work towards a future where wolves thrive in Minnesota. Now, we've been talking about this for as long as we've been on the air, for 7 years. We've been talking about our Minnesota wolves and how important they are to keep around, right, for future generations. That's exactly what our commercial says from Howling for Wolves. So we know we always love the wolf. And I want to thank my husband, Robert, again. Last year, Robert did an awesome job at our state Senate. And he spoke on behalf of Minnesota Wolves. And he gave the Native American perspective about why it's so important to keep our wolves. And I just want to say thanks again, Robert, for doing that. It is on public like domain, you could go online and watch his speech or his commentary about the wolf, and I think he really did a great job. But I have a list here of a few fun facts about our gray wolves, and those are the kind of wolves that we have here. Their scientific name for the gray wolf is Canis lupus. Yeah, so we do that. And wolves are the largest members of the Canidae family. That's what they're called. Males average 5 to 6.5 feet in length from nose to the tip of tail. So that's 5 to 6.5 feet, while the females average 4.5 to 6 feet. So they are a lot smaller.
Sure.
Yeah. Most wolves stand at 26 to 32 inches at the shoulder. So I guess, yeah, their head would be a lot higher. But yeah, the shoulder, they're 26 to 32 inches. Females weigh approximately 60 to 80 pounds, where males larger will weigh 70 to 110 pounds. A wolf footprint will measure 4 inches wide by 5 inches long.
Wow.
That's amazing how big their paws are.
Yeah.
Paws are. That's really incredible. And unfortunately, the only time I ever got to see a wolf wasn't even in the wild. It was a captured wolf. Do you remember that place we went to, Robert? I think we took just a drive up north one day just to take like a little road trip. And we came upon this place. I wish I could remember the name of it, but you could go and take pictures with wild animals.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's go in there and check this place out. And we went down
crazy.
this long dirt road, really far into the deep woods. And what we found were wild animals in cages, and they let the animal out like for a minute so that you could just like snap a picture with it. So there were bears, there were baby bears, there were wolves, all enclosed in these small structures. And I just couldn't believe it. I was just so upset about it. I started taking pictures, and this guy, the security guy, came out and started yelling at us. I think he had a gun. I can't remember.
Oh, goodness.
But we got in the car fast and went down the road like so fast. He came at us behind us on one of those four-wheelers. And yeah, it was like terrible. So I would just encourage people,
Wendy almost got me killed, Haley.
Oh gosh.
Don't take pictures where places say, yeah, you could take a picture with a wild, a coyote or a wolf or a bear, because the animals stay in cages the whole entire time until you are ready to take that picture. Most of the time, the animals, yeah, it's terrible. Mostly all the animals are drugged, or they're, beaten or shown a stick or some type of weapon that, makes them behave out of intimidation. That's what happens. So it's just don't do it. Don't swim with dolphins in the pool at the aquarium. Don't go see dolphin shows. Don't take pictures with wild animals. I could go on and on and on.
I know that was terrible, Wendy. Thinking back to that,
it just
and it
popped
was
into
in the
my
middle.
head as I was talking about this.
It was in the middle of nowhere too. So how many of these places are scattered around, along with puppy mills, all these things that are so detrimental to our relatives with hooves, tails, big noses, and
Right. Well, they have roadside zoos. They have roadside animal, like if you're driving cross country and you're, driving down not on the regular highway, but, down through the town or through a road, they have these places, and a lot of people just stop, like for $25, take your picture with, this wild animal that we have chained up in the back of the pickup all day.
And they all got and the people running that got like big scars down their face. And
Oh my goodness.
Well, yeah, there was a story about one. I can't remember where it was, but it was of a cougar, and the cougar was just chained up in the back of this pickup, and people would, stand in the back of, near the pickup where the wildcat was chained up, and you could take a picture with that wildcat. The wildcat was eventually rescued. And there's a video online of it where they cut the leather leash that was around its neck and then let it free. And that, it was like the first time that this wild cat was, walking around on grass for the first time. You know how your regular cat at home will make those like kneading, their paws will knead, and this big lion was doing that in the grass. It was probably the first time that he felt the grass, but he spent his whole life in the back of the pickup truck chained up, and people would just take pictures of him there.
Well, Peony, thank you, Wendy. We're still here. We are the 7th generation. This has been Native Roots Radio.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Now.
One of the best things about living in Golden Valley is that it's so